मण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। हरि ओम। ओम नमो भगवते रामकृष्णाय। Welcome to this Hymns Explained class. Today, we are actually connecting from the previous to the previous week. As you all know, previous week, due to some unavoidable reason, we had to cancel the class. But this week, we are again resuming from the place we have left. So before we start the study of this particular Sri Ramakrishna Aratrikam, this is the verse that we are going to do. I would request Juma to chant the two verses as we do in the Arati.
Khandana bhava bandhana jaga vandana vandito mai niranjana nararupadhara Nararupadhara nirguna gunamai.
Thank you. Very first verse, as we saw in the beginning, starts addressing to Sri Ramakrishna. Now, what is the view or what is the concept of Swami Vivekananda about Sri Ramakrishna? Was he his guru? Yes, he was his guru. Was he a human being? Yes, he was definitely a human being. Is he or was he something more than that? So Swami Vivekananda says that Sri Ramakrishna for me is something more than that. How do you know that he is considering Sri Ramakrishna as more than that? The very word he has used, Nara Rupa Dhara, one who has taken the human form, one who has taken the human body. That means someone, some power, supreme power, has taken the human body now before me. So that means he indicates that Sri Ramakrishna should be taken as transcendent also. In his transcendent qualities, I will worship him. And if I want and if I like it, then I will worship him in his immanent qualities also. So God has got two types of expression of manifestation. One is his immanent everywhere. Immanent means he is residing in everything. There is nothing in this world which is not having God in it. And transcendent means whatever you see in this universe, wide universe, whatever you see, these are all pervaded by the supreme power. But that does not exhaust God. He is something beyond that also. So that's why in that sense only, some of the adjectives Swami Vivekananda uses, we must try to understand. So last week before we saw Khandana Bhava Bandhana, O breaker of the bond of samsara, Jagavandana, you are adored by the world. Vandi Tumai, I bow down to you, obeisance to you. Why? I am now going to tell what are the reasons why I bow down to you. So the first reason he says, Niranjana, stainless. There is no dirt in you, stainless. And then Nara Rupa Dhara, you have taken the form of a human being. Now this is a very beautifully Swami Vivekananda says here. And then he goes on to say, Nirguna Gunamaya. Only before this Nirguna when we came, our time was up, so we stopped. So today we start with Nirguna. What is this Nirguna? Nirguna is a negative term to mean without gunas. Guna, quality. Nirguna is without any quality. So the guna, that term in Sanskrit, has got several senses of meaning. So you can use it different senses according to the context. One of the meaning is rope, to tie. That is also called guna. So if you want to tie any packet or anything and make it bound by that string, then it is called guna. So that very matches with Sri Ramakrishna, Nirguna. He was not tied down by any of the conditions that we are all tied down. He is completely detached. Yes.
So guna means rope, you're saying?
Yeah, no, I'm telling several meanings. One of the meaning I'm starting with rope.
Okay. Guna.
So that rope, how it is matching with Sri Ramakrishna's character. That's what I'm telling. So there are other meanings also I'm now coming to you. So this guna means that rope which binds you. Is there any bondage for Sri Ramakrishna? He was a Paramahamsa. He was a Mukta Purusha. So he was already liberated. He has attained God consciousness. For him, there is nothing in this world that can bind him. So Nirguna, in that meaning, is very fitting to Sri Ramakrishna. What are the other meanings can be there? Another meaning for guna is secondary. Primary and secondary, we all know that. Isn't it? Primary thing, secondary thing. So primary is called mukhya in Sanskrit. In literature, particularly in Vedanta, this word is utilized. Mukhya. Mukhya means primary. And what is secondary? Secondary is gauna. That gauna word comes from guna. So gauna. Gauna means it is secondary. So what is the sense of this secondary nature of Sri Ramakrishna? If you see, according to the Sankhya and Upanishads, etc., you will find that God is, which one you call Brahman? This question arises in Upanishads, and they discuss. And they found the uncaused cause is the Brahman. That means, which is beyond the Karana, which is the cause itself of everything, but it doesn't have any cause. So otherwise, there will be fallacy in the logic. In one of the classes, I was telling how the fallacy comes. If you say this world was created by somebody, say Brahma, then what happens? The question will come, who created Brahma? Then you'll say, Brahma came from the umbilical cord. Where it comes, he came from the Nabi. So he was created by Vishnu. Then the question will come, who created Vishnu? Then you are stumbled because you do not know who created Vishnu. How can you imagine God being created? So they say there must be some place you have to put a stop and consider uncaused cause. It's a very beautiful term in English. A cause that has got no pre-cause. That means there is a primary. That's why in Vedanta, God is always considered as the one. So Sri Ramakrishna gives, he puts the number 1. And he says, you can add any number of zeros to increase the value of the whatever you have. But if you remove that 1, everything becomes 0. So that means that 1, it's called primary. Primary is mukhya. And rest of the things are all gauna. So he is not. So what is the meaning of this gauna? So he is without being secondary to anything. So nirguna means he is not secondary to anything in that sense. That means what is he? He is the primary thing. From him, from the Brahman, the entire universe has come out. So Brahman is called uncaused cause and the primary thing. Another meaning, very interesting meaning is there, and that is called the 3 gunas that we refer almost, because any student of Vedanta must be aware, because Vedanta has borrowed from Sankhya philosophy a lot of preliminary ideas. So Sankhya speaks about three gunas. The Prakriti has got three gunas. In the presence of Purusha, Prakriti acts. That is what Sankhya says. So there, what are the three gunas that Prakriti has? Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Now you see, these three gunas comprising Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Is this completely detached to the gunas? Is the Brahman or the Purusha, according to Sankhya, is it Asanga? Purusha is said to be Asanga, means he is not attached. He is not having a contact. Asanga, no contact. No contact with the Prakriti. He is only present. His presence itself will make the Prakriti act. That means he is unaffected by these three gunas. So what is the nature of Sri Ramakrishna? It is, he was Gunatita. He is beyond these three gunas. So in that sense also, you can see that Nirguna word is amply fitting Sri Ramakrishna's description. Before going to Gunamaya, any question? As I told you, you can freely ask question. You can raise your hand. This is not a lecture session. You can intervene anytime. If there is no question about Nirguna, I shall go to Gunamaya. Now, it's very strange, and Swamiji is putting seemingly completely contradictory terms together. If he says Gunamaya in some other place, at least we can understand in that context. But here, he has declared Sri Ramakrishna as Nirguna. In all these senses, as I told, three meanings I told you, in all these senses, he is Nirguna. And immediately after that, he says Gunamaya. And here only I want to have a correction. Many people sing this song, Gunamaya, like that they sing. It is not Gunamaya, it is Gunamaya. Maya means full of, absorbed in. That is called Maya. That Maya word is used in Sanskrit for many words also. So Gunamaya, like that you say, yes.
What is Guna Maya? Is that a word or it's not a word at all?
There is no word at all.
Okay.
Yes. Because gunas form part of the Maya only. So Guna Maya. Now this Guna Maya, he says that the three gunas are there. That means easy. First you declared he is beyond all the three gunas. Do you mean to say he is bound by all the three gunas? No. Because that will be going against the theme of the song. So how do we understand this? So this question was raised by us as a brahmachari, when Swami Gambhiranji came to Kanpur. So actually, I only raised this question. Why Swamiji has put Gunamaya next to Nirguna? So he gave a very beautiful answer. I'm telling you that. You see, if you call it Nirguna, it has got no connection with Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Then that Supreme God will be like a sawdust. Sawdust, if you put in your mouth, what happens? It is tasteless, colorless, like a completely unattractive. It will be like a thing. So how do you turn that transcendental position, which is Sri Ramakrishna is in his original nature, that is Swarupa, and then when he comes as a Nara Rupa Dhara, when he comes as a human being, how does he act? It's very important to understand, That's why this concept of Gunamaya comes for the devotional people. Nirguna comes for the Jnanis, the people who follow Jnana Marga, that is the path of knowledge. For them, the Nirguna, thinking of Nirguna is very well suited. But most of us are not Jnanis. We want to have somebody to whom we can talk, we can be in touch with. So in that case, he should have gunas. So not this sattva, rajas, tamas. What type of gunas he can have? So uh, these Vaishnavas, who are all experts in conceiving that Brahman into sakara worship, that is with form and with name, they consider God has got all the kalyana gunas. See, in every religion, theistic religion, whether Christianity, Islam, or Hinduism, you see that anywhere the God is conceived in personal aspect, then he is endowed with all the gunas. What type of gunas he is having? All types of gunas that are highly idealistic, highly wonderful, highly beneficent. Not the evil gunas, not the evil characters. All the best thing that you can see, they are all put into this. That's why Vaishnavas speak about Narayana. There is a scripture called Vaishnava scripture called Atharva Rahasyam. So in that, Narayana is described as Nigama Vedita Ananta Kalyana Guna Sampanna. So Ananta Kalyana Guna Sampanna. So Lord Narayana, Vishnu, has got infinite number of Kalyana Guna, the most welfare, that is the gunas that are most beneficent to humanity. So this Gunamaya does mean that he is full of those types of qualities. So he is the origin and repository, you can say. Every Kalyana Guna is deposited in him. So he is an origin of the deposited gunas. What are those gunas? Noble, great, blessed qualities. We all use these terms in our normal day-to-day life. And we say, oh, what a blessed thing that you have done. Like that we use this word. So these are the words that Swamiji is thinking. So the whole creation has come out of him, the primary Lord, through the Prakriti. Then should he not see and recognize all the good, great, perfect, blessed qualities as arising from him? Can he be divested of these gunas? No. That's why Swamiji says that he is Nirguna for the people who worship the Supreme Being in the Jnana Marga, and he is Gunamaya for the people who worship in the devotional Bhakti Marga. So this, and it very well fits with Sri Ramakrishna. If you see, Sri Ramakrishna was absolutely truthful. This is a Kalyana Guna. If you tell lies, that is the evil thing, Some people are called, they speak lies so much. And they say his constitution is made of lies. They have certain terms for them. Anybody remembers that term? So this lies speaking is not a good thing. It's not a Kalyana Guna. And you think other Kalyana Gunas, total absence of passion. And can you say that absolutely there is no lust in him? It is something wonderful. Yesterday night, we have celebrated, in all over the world, Ramakrishna devotees have celebrated this Falaharini Kali Puja. And there's a great incident that happened on that yesterday night. Yesterday I had a special talk on this Falaharini Kali Puja. Those who could not hear, many of you must have also, like me, spent the night in wakefulness. I didn't want to sleep, So this is a wonderful day or wonderful night. I must think of Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother. So I was thinking about them and saw some of the pujas also in our center, like Jairambati Puja, etc. I saw in a net. So it was so engrossed, So I couldn't sleep well. So some of you might not have slept also. Still joining today for this classes, I thank you for that. So now you see, without any lust, he worshipped, adored his own wedded wife as the divine mother, supreme divine mother. So that is another guna. And does he have greed? No. He actually wanted to leave everything, renounce everything. No question of greed at all. And then universal love and compassion. How much we can speak of Sri Ramakrishna? Many examples are there for his universal love and compassion. You know, we think Sri Ramakrishna loved his own devotees and the disciples. No. In Amodar Nadi, in Kamarpukur, once we went, he was standing and taking bath, etc. And others also were there in that river. Sri Ramakrishna got up and he was praying to the Lord at that time, standing knee-deep water. At that time, he saw some fish came and then started moving around his feet. He's not going to catch any fish at that time. He's praying to God. And he saw Sri Ramakrishna sighted a man with a great net, and he was trying to catch all the fish. And the fish came to him. And Sri Ramakrishna says, the fish came and took refuge in me. How can I allow it to be taken away by that fisherman? I told the fisherman, please go away from here. Don't touch this fish which has come to me. So it's a good example for us. If we take refuge at the holy feet of Sri Ramakrishna, he will also put his hands upon us. He will protect us. So this is one of the important guna. And then common sense. His common sense is very, yes.
Jody has raised his hand.
Okay.
Oh, thank you, Maharaj. So this, Maharaj, is it that we are putting almost like nirguna means without attributes?
Yes.
And then this kalyana guna means all attributes. So we're saying that
the attributes that are beneficent to humanity spiritually.
So then let's virtuous attributes.
Yes,
noble,
exactly.
noble attributes. So we're saying on one hand he has no attributes. On the other hand, he has only positive attributes. Is that the idea?
That's the idea, but according to the perception, according to temperament, if you are a Jnana yogi, nirguna fits for your meditation. No, if you are a bhakta yogi, then the gunamaya fits your meditation.
Then Maharaj mentioned in one of his previous lectures that this that for us as Vedantins, this yoga, tantra, and sankhya form an important part of the way in which we approach Sri Ramakrishna.
Yes.
So if we were to use that as our filter, or the system of philosophy through which we see Sri Ramakrishna, then how would that become important regarding nirguna and kalyana guna?
Because you say, see, tantra, yoga, and sankhya are forming the basic principles of Vedanta. Vedanta is a very big palace-like building. The building started with the foundation stones. So the ideas that are obtained in Sankhya, Yoga, and Tantra, they are all the basic points in Vedanta. But as you progress in Vedanta from Dvaita to Vishishtadvaita, from Vishishtadvaita to Advaita level, what happens? Certain principles of the Sankhya and Yoga and Tantra are swiped out, are removed. So as you progress in spiritual life, certain things you will find are not suitable for your meditation. So as it is, so Swamiji has to include everyone, you see. He has to talk to everyone. He cannot say, I will talk only to Jnana yogis. He has to talk to Karma yogis, Jnana yogis, Bhakti yogis, and the Raja yogis.
Oh, thank you, Maharaj. So it's a development. It's not it's a process, not a destination.
Yes. So all the Kalyana gunas are with him. Yes, Gaurav.
Namaste, Swami.
Namaste.
Swamiji, if I check the English translation, which starts with breaker of the world's chain, we adore thee, whom all men love. Over there, Swamiji, it is only the nirguna quality which is described. Is there any reason? Like it says, O purifier, thou art above the gunas 3, knowledge divine, not flesh. So, gunamaya quality is probably not described here. Is it right?
What is the translation you say? Read that last line.
I'll read. O purifier, thou art above the gunas 3.
Yes.
Knowledge divine, not flesh. So
yes. So this is knowledge divine and not flesh. These are the gunas they mean, I think, the translator. But I told you this meaning is that beyond the 3 gunas is one of the sense.
Yes.
Yes. Another meaning I told you, the rope meaning. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so
much.
You
can multiply, you can interpret,
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So this is the first verse is done. So we shall now move on to the second verse. Juma can sing that.
Mochana Ghadushana Jaga Bhushana Chidghana Kai Jnananjana Vimala Nayana Jnananjana Vimala Nayana Vikshane Mohajai.
Thank you. So in this second verse, you see, what are the words are there? First, let us be familiar to the words. Mochana, Agha, Dushana, Jaga, Bhushana, Chit, Ghana, Kaya. Jnana, Anjana, Jnananjana, Vimala, Nayana, Vikshane, Moha, Jai. Here also in the second verse, the last term that Jai has been used, that is specifically a Bengali term. So from that, you can understand this script, though it is written almost like Sanskrit, but you know that it is a Bengali verse. How do you find out that Jai is there? The Jai is used in Hindi also, and in Sanskrit it is not used. So that's why we come to the vernacular. Okay. Now you see, Mochana, Aga Dushana. Mochana, Aga Dushana. You are Mochan. You are Mochan means you are free. Free. Because you are free, you can free us also. You are free from what? And you are going to free us from what? This question comes. So when he addresses Mochana, Mochana means thou art free. So you are free of what? Immediately he says, Agha Dushana. The word Agha means papam. That is sin. So we say that there are, under the sins, there are 2 classifications are done in the Sanskrit scriptures. They say there are mild sins and heinous sins. So Mahapapa is called Dushana. That is the heinous sins. And mild sins are called Aga. So what type of sins he is going to, or he himself is free from? He is free from the minimum, that is simple type of normal sins that we do. That is, and also the heinous sins. From both he is free, Aga and Dushana. Now you find this, Aga Dushana can be used as one term also. Instead of making separately, you can study it as one term. That is, it means heinous or reprehensible sins. The sin that one should not even think of. Those types are called Agadushan. Now these Agadushans he is the remover. So now what happens, they're serious. serious sins like a killing of a pregnant woman, killing of a baby, or telling a lie to put somebody into some type of problem. So these are all called heinous sins. So putting fire on somebody's house, that also comes under heinous sins. And if there is a devoted person who is learned, like a learned Brahmana who is fully engaged in the temple worship, if you kill him, that is also called a heinous sin. So the heinous sins and the ordinary sins which we all do. Well, we just sit there, a mosquito comes and sits on my lap. I just, without understanding, I just put my hand on that and the mosquito is killed. This is not a heinous sin, mind you. Though killing is same factor. But then the Shastras say these things are, certain things are unavoidable. Now I am speaking. You know, Jain Dharmis, you'll find the Jains always put one mask. Not for corona. Long time back they are putting it. For what purpose? Because they say when they speak and lots of bacteria are moving around my mouth, they are all killed. So in order to save oneself from that type of sin, they put on the mask. So likewise, with certain things, unavoidable things we do, they are all, no doubt, they are a sin, but then you cannot avoid it. So what happens? So these two types of sins, mochana, he wipes out. So he himself is free from that. He is mochana. Not only mochana, us also, he removes our sins from us. What happens, see, when we do sins, small sins or bigger sin even, can we not go and appeal? Say in the civic system, what they do, a person is given punishment by the judge. The person who is aggrieved can definitely appeal to the government head. He can appeal to the prime minister, he can appeal to the president of the country and ask for pardon. So the president says, and the president is pleased to give pardon to such and such, like that the order will come. Or the queen is pleased to give the pardon to certain people. Even the vilest sin he has committed, considering the circumstances that forced him to commit the vilest sin, the court may be little lenient. The president may be lenient. So he may give you pardon. Likewise, Sri Ramakrishna himself, mochana, why not you appeal to him? So Swamiji gives an indication to the devotee, why don't you appeal to him since you are doing normal sins every day and heinous sins sometimes. So can't you appeal to Sri Ramakrishna, hey mochana, you remove me also free from all the sins. So that is mochana agadushana. Have you not seen in his life, can you tell anyone an example of Sri Ramakrishna accepting all the sins of a person? The glorious example is Girish Chandra Ghosh. Yes, Girish has done. He said to others, you know, when Naren was talking to him and Naren asked Girish Babu, said Girish Babu is very senior to him, you know. Naren was a young boy. He said, you said that you are sinner, you have committed so many sins, etc.
One answer
How much
here.
quantity of sins you must have done?
One answer
Can you quantify it? Then Girish Ghosh says, look, Naren, if I take one sin, which is called the drinking, the alcohol drinking as one sin, you know, that is definitely a sinful act. So if I consider that only, I will tell you the example. I can keep bottle after bottle after bottle, that will be higher, taller than the Mount Everest. So much I have drunk. But when I told Sri Ramakrishna, I am a drunkard, he said, I don't mind all those things. He did not accept at all. So you see, that is a great example. And then many people are there we find that Sri Ramakrishna has excused them from the sins of the householder disciples, even monastic disciples. His 16 disciples, that direct disciples we say, for them also. One day he told one direct disciple, I don't want to see your face. He said, Master, why do you want to see my face? All these days you are so nice to me because you committed a sin today. Did you not speak lie today? Somewhere else you spoke lie. And that also for fun. And that created such a thing. Sri Ramakrishna said no. And then he falls at Sri Ramakrishna's feet. Then he says, okay, I excuse you. So he excuses and frees us from all the sins. Aga mochana, that is aga dushana mochana. Now you see the beautiful Sanskrit word that Swamiji has used. He says in one place dushana, and immediately he brings bhushana. The alliteration also you see, for singing a song, these things help us. You know that it takes you at a particular laya. So he has used that jaga bhushana. What is the meaning? There are two words are there, jaga and bhushana. You can consider it as one word, as a samas, but one word also. So jaga bhushana means one who is the ornament of this universe. Now this is a very important point. Why he bring ornament here? Swamiji very well knows Sri Ramakrishna could not be given with any ornaments. Not to speak of gold or silver or any ornaments, he will not wear. But we all ordinary human beings, we wear. I have seen some Swamis wearing so many rings in their fingers, and they wear Garua Kappa. Sometimes I don't even like to wear a wristwatch. But then some people would like to wear even rings. And how is it? Because we love to have bhushana, these ornaments, this decoration. So you find women have got natural attraction. Even Holy Mother, though Holy Mother is a divine mother, and divine mother in our scriptures is always described with bhushita. Sarvalankara bhushita. That is why Tripura Sundari is depicted. Sarvalankara. All types of decorations are there. So it is okay. There is no problem with that. There is no objection to anybody. But then for Sri Ramakrishna, how the bhushana, the ornaments can be fit to him. So that is what is the purpose of wearing an ornament? Let us find out. If you think of that, you will be surprised. The purpose of the ornament is to enhance the beauty of the bodily organ. So this is a neck. It is a naked neck. And you put one simple mala, say a pearl necklace. And you'll find how immediately this portion becomes beautified. In Google Photos, when you take a photo and later on you click that photo, there is one word will come, beautify. So you click that button, then it automatically beautifies the photo. That is an ornament. So you find that everything is beautified that enhances your beauty. So that is why it is called ornament. Now, but is it powerful to enhance the beauty of your mind? Great men like Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Swami Vivekananda, they didn't have any ornament. But still, do we consider them as, oh, they are not having any ornament, so they cannot be respected? We don't say that, because we see their mental qualities, their spiritual attainments as itself as an ornament for them. So their very character is an adornment, an ornament for them. For Sri Ramakrishna, he was honored and worshipped all over the world, and he was a jewel among men. There were many people during Sri Ramakrishna's time, great men, like I told you, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Keshav Chandra Sen, even Gauri Pandit, about whom we just a few hours before we thought of. So Gauri Pandit, such great people were there. It was not Ramakrishna was all alone great man. In his time, there were many people who were there who were respected and adored by the society. But of all them, this one, Sri Ramakrishna, appears to be a supreme ornament for this universe. That qualities that Sri Ramakrishna stood for, if we can emulate, those qualities become our ornaments. So that is called Jaga Bhushana. Anything? If there is no question, then I'll go to Chit Ghana Kaya. Here, three words are put together. Chit Ghana Kaya. Chit is written, C-I-D or C-H-I-D. When you write in English, it is Chit Ghana. Actually, the word is Chit, not Chid. Because the Ghana, the G, that Gha has come there. So in Sanskrit, according to the rule, the Ta becomes the. So it has become id. So it becomes Chid. So Chid Ghana Kaya. Now, according to Vedanta, the Brahman is absolute. Though it is absolute, Purna, it is absolute, but then it has got three types of qualities. That is Sat, Chit, Anand. Sat means absolute existence. Chit means absolute intellect or knowledge. And Ananda means absolute bliss. So these three are considered as the indications of Brahman. So, or the pure consciousness. When you describe Brahman as a pure consciousness, the word Chit is utilized. So we all say Chit. The Chit means Chaitanya. The word Chaitanya is origin from Chit. Chit means consciousness. Chaitanya means consciousness. That is also consciousness. But the quality of consciousness is called Chaitanya. Chit means absolute conscious. Being conscious, that's called Chit. Now, these things, when the same Brahman has assumed a human form, that means an entity or X, something which we cannot define in proper terms in our language, that X has assumed a body, Nara Rupa Dhara, has assumed a body. Body, the word is Kaya. Kaya means body. This physical body is called Kaya. And Ghana means condensed, solidified. So a Brahman, which is present everywhere, that supreme power, has assumed a human body, then you call it, it has become, this is called an avatara. So we say, the Puranas, we say, Hari takes avatara. What is the quality of Hari? His quality is Sat Chit Anandam. And that is Hari. And if that Hari takes a form, a human form, eligible to be seen by us, that means that infinite Hari becomes solidified as if for us. And he has become condensed in the form of a body. So, Chit Ghana Kaya. By his own Maya power, mind you, he has taken this avatara, this human body, by his own Maya power. So, that assumption or that assuming the human body is called Ghana. Ghana means heavy, solid. We can say, you can use the word solid, for Ghana. We all say that how the pies we have made, the pies has become Ghana. So the milk is not visible now. It has become Ghana, means it has become very tight. It has become solid. So we make it. Sometimes, softest idlis, I find sometimes they are all Ghana idlis. Ghana means weighty also. So weighty. So like it becomes like a stone. So we say that Ghana, because it is solidified. You keep butter outside in the hot sun, it will become liquid. But you put it in the fridge, it becomes solidified. So this is called Ghana. So how beautifully Swamiji says, he has become Ghana, but of what material that has become solid before our eyes? The Chit material has come. The intelligent, that is that Chaitanya has come, consciousness has become solidified. That's why he says, Chit Gana Kaya, solidified consciousness incarnate. So Gaurav, in your translation, what does it say?
I'll read Swamiji from the translation.
The second verse.
I'll read the second verse. It says, "Let us look deep in thine eyes. They are bright with the wisdom of God that can wake us from Maya's spell. Let us hold fast to thy feet, treading the waves of the world, to safety, O drunk with love, God-drunken lover. In thee all paths of all yogas meet." So
I cannot find any such.
Yeah.
Okay, Chit Gana Kaya is left out, or it is used as an adjective somewhere? Because I don't have the words in front of me, I cannot follow it.
Yeah, I think it is.
Because so far you don't have any question about Chit Gana Kaya. Do you have any question?
No.
Then we can go to next.
No, because I can't find. But I think at the end, maybe we will be able to connect all the dots together.
Okay.
Thank
Anyway,
you,
this proportion is clear, is it not?
Yes, Swamiji, it's very clear. Chit solidified as a body, as you said.
Chaitanya. Chaitanya has come in the form of human being. So becoming a human being is a solidification. It is, it is Ghana. Because our real nature has got no solidness, it's all light. So that's why.
Thank you.
So now let us go to this next. Jnananjana Vimala Nayana. This was very beautiful words Swamiji has used, Nayan. Nayan means eyes. So he is giving an adjective for the eyes. Oh thou, hey Sri Ramakrishna, you have eyes because you see everything. You never sleep. God never sleeps, He is always awake. So you are got eyes to see us. But the eyes have to be given adjectives. What types of eyes you have? You have Vimala Nayana. Vimala is the word, means Vigata Mala. Vigata Mala means the Mala is gone. What is Mala? Mala is dirt. So you have people having the name Vimala, like that we give the name, or Vimal Chandra, like that we give the name. Vimal. So Vimal means that Mal is not there. The dirt is not there. That person is called Vimal. So Vimal Nayana, your eyes have got no type of dirt. That means no type of stain. First itself he has told Niranjana. And now he says that it has got no type of dirt. And then he says another adjective he uses for this eyes. He says Jnananjana. These eyes are simple eyes, but then these eyes are got a collyrium. One anjan has been put. So that anjan is Jnananjana. See, Sat Chit Ananda we said, you see, how he beautifully brings it. This Jnananjana, this knowledge collyrium has been put in your eyes. So with that eyes, you are witnessing this universe. You are seeing me. As a devotee, I am looking at you. And Sri Ramakrishna many times would go into half-conscious state. At that time, his eyes would not be completely closed. In Samadhi, sometimes his eyes remain completely closed. But many times, he has got half eyes open, half eyes closed. That means he could see Ardha Bahya Dasha, as he says, as Yam says in the gospel. Half conscious state. So what is that half conscious state? The eyes are not fully covered. So half it is open, through that he is looking. And that look, that vision is based on the jnana, knowledge. The collyrium of knowledge he has applied. That means has he really applied a collyrium? No. There is no such collyrium. Jnana collyrium is not there. It is only used as an adjective or as an example to say as that what is the meaning of jnana nayana. His eyes are full of knowledge. The knowledge is there. So why knowledge is there? It is because in Gita also Sri Krishna says that he says you find in the 4th chapter, 38th verse, Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitramiha vidyate. So Sri Krishna declares to Arjuna, Nahi jnanena sadrisham. There is nothing equal to jnana. Sadrisham means alike, look alike. Sadrish. There is nothing sadrish. There is nothing equal to jnana. Why? Pavitram iha vidyate. In the purity, knowledge is the highest. If you are a person of knowledge, if you have attained Brahma Jnana, all your sins are wiped out. Because all your vasanas are burned and they become only like seeds, as Sri Ramakrishna says. All the vasanas are burnt when the jnana comes. So jnana jana, vimala, purified, nayana, oh Lord, you are having this. There is no purifying agent like knowledge of God. So knowledge of God is called jnananjana collyrium, and naturally, when God's knowledge comes, there cannot be any sin in you, any dirt with you. So you become vimala. And with that nayana, you see, in Holy Mother's life, we get one incident that Holy Mother is sitting in Mother's house, that is Mayarbadi in Bagbazar. So one gentleman comes to make pranam to her. He left his house. He was coming by walk. During walking in the street, he saw some people. You know, our mind is like reflection. You see a good man, good thoughts come. You see a bad man, then bad thoughts comes. So he was seeing somebody and immediately bad thoughts arose in his mind. Until he reached Mayarbadi, his mind is full of bad thoughts. And such erotic thoughts have come in his mind. And now he is going to meet Holy Mother. How dare he? He himself is asking, how dare I am to go and meet Holy Mother? He says, no, I shall not meet Holy Mother. I must go back. With these bad thoughts, I should not go. You know, when you go to a place of worship, you are supposed to keep your mind clean. Not only your body clean, because you have taken bath, etc. The mind also must be clean. And if the mind has to be clean, means it should have pure thoughts within you. Then only you can enjoy the atmosphere of the holy place. Even in the holy place, as Sri Ramakrishna witnessed in Benares, he said, what? Same thing. The same kola gach is there, the same nariyal gach is there, he says, in one place. There is nothing difference between Benares and Kamarpukur or Dakshineswar, you see. The difference comes in the thought level. In the thought level, if you have got a purified thoughts in you, the place itself becomes purified. So this man, when he entered, still he went there and he was waiting for Holy Mother. Holy Mother came and seated, and then he goes and he falls at her feet and cries. Holding the feet, he cries. And he is telling within himself, not to her, within himself is telling, Mother, what has happened to me today? My mind is uncontrollable. While weeping with tears, he raises his head and looks at Mother. Generally with men folk, you know, Mother puts on the veil. She doesn't show her face. On that day, to that person, she opened her veil and her eyes fell on this person. The very next moment, that person was absolutely purified. He says, I was simply taken to another dimension of my thought level. I got completely purified of all my bad things have been washed out. By the sight of Holy Mother, and Holy Mother seeing him. That's why in temples in Sanatana Dharma, in temples, visit is a must, When you go to temple, you go there. At that time, Arati is taken. In our ashrams also, we do Arati. Some people, what happened? Close their eyes during Arati. It's not to be. The Shastra says one should not close one's eyes when the Arati is being shown to the deity. Why? When Arati is being shown to the deity, deity opens his eyes. And that grace from the deity's eyes, that rays of grace must fall upon you, you get purified. That's why Arati time, you should put your hands together, the Namaste posture, and then look at the deity and see whether deity looks at you. You'll be surprised. Wherever you may stand, you will feel that the deity looks at you. That is how the Shilpa Kala, in India, that has come. That is the sculpture. The sculptures have been done in such a way, you stand anywhere in the temple side and you look at, and the Devi is looking at you only. You will feel like that. They have made that eyes in such a way, in such an angle, that wherever you stand, you can see that God is looking at you. So, Jnananjana Vimala Nayana. What happens with this Nayan? Vikshane. Vikshane means being seen, being thrown. The rays of sight is being thrown to you. Vikshan. So Vikshan means throwing out. So when Sri Ramakrishna opens his eyes and looks at you, he has thrown his kataksha, his eyes rays to us. The graceful rays have come to me. Vikshane. Okay, I go there, I get purified, etc. I understand. And he opens his eyes and he looks at me. I'm very happy. But then, what is the result of that? Moha jai. Moha means delusion. The delusion goes away. Here also you see the jai is used. Kaya and jaya is alliterated. You know that. So kaya and jai. So jai means it is gone. It goes away. What goes away? Moha. The delusion goes away by the sight that Sri Ramakrishna, when he opens his knowledge eyes. Jnananjana Vimala Nayana Vikshane Moha Jai. The moha goes away. Why? Tasmad Atmagyam Harchayet. He Archayet. Mundaka Upanishad says. Tasmat Atmagyanim. Atmagyam. Atmagyam means one who has realized Atman. He is called Atmagyan. So this Atmagya, when you sight him, when you go to him, when you sit before him, what happens? He archayet. You should archana. You should do the archana. That means you should adore a person of self-knowledge. So this type of many sentences are there in our Upanishads and in our Puranas, where they say, when a holy man comes, you go and meet him. A holy man, not only Jnananjana, his whole body becomes purified. One sadhu had come to Calcutta. So in Dakshineswar, Sri Ramakrishna heard about him. So he went and told our Hazra, and told Hazra, can you take me to Calcutta tomorrow? Then Hazra asked, why? One sadhu has come, I want to go and see him. Then Hazra says, what? A sadhu is only a cage of bones and flesh. It's the body. A sadhu is nothing else other than a cage of bone, flesh and bones. What is there to see him? Hazra was a jnani. He used to do all Advaita speaking. So he doesn't care for this. And Sri Ramakrishna came to his room very disappointed. Because Sri Ramakrishna wanted to go to Calcutta and see him, and that could not be done. So he was disappointed. At that time, what is his name?
Krishna Kishore.
Krishna Kishore comes. When Krishna Kishore comes, thank you, Malavika. So when Krishna Kishore comes, he tells him, he complains to him. You see, I told this man could have easily taken me, but he did not take me. Krishna Kishore said, so what did he say? He said, a sadhu is nothing else other than a cage of flesh and blood. Did he say like that? Krishna Kishore was stunned. Oh, master, did he say like that? He said, yes. What does he know about a sadhu? A sadhu is all the time thinking of Lord. His whole body becomes divine. And that divine body, to have darshan of it. You know why we say you all please come to ashram? It is because of the darshan, you can have darshan of the monks. To see somebody who is, if not 24 hours, if not 18 hours, if not 10 hours, definitely more hours than you, if that man is thinking of God, then he is purified. So should you not meet him? Should you not see him? So Sri Ramakrishna gave this example. If a sadhu comes anywhere, he would go and see him. In Dakshineswar itself, wherever any sadhu comes, he would go and see him. That's a beautiful way that Jnananjana is. Vimala Nayana, Vikshane Mohajai. So the delusion disappears. That is what we see in Sri Ramakrishna's life. So we shall go to the third verse next week. Yes, any questions?
Maharaj, this word Vikshane, can Maharaj expand a little bit on the meaning of Vikshane?
Yes. You see, that's a Sanskrit word. The root is iksh. Iksh is the root. Iksh means to see, to witness, to look. That is the meaning of the root word iksh. Ikshan means seeing, looking at. It's called ikshan. But it is not a simply see. See, I see your photo. I say this is Jodi. But that is not seeing. When you come in front of me, I see you fully. From head to toe, I see, oh, Jodi is okay now. He looks very healthy and he looks very happy. This is called a special type of seeing. I can see you simply as Jodi, but that is not satisfies me. So I look at you and understand you are happy. You are quite nice. You are quite dynamic. So all these qualities that is coming out from your face and that happiness, etc., I can see. Then I say how bubbly this person is. So when devotees come, I also observe. I also vikshan. I do that. So I know that who is very lazy, who is very not able to get up from the chair. Like that people are also there. And there are people who come and immediately take the Henry. You know, we have got a Henry assistant. One Henry is there. He will take the Henry and start cleaning the entire place with him. So you can see that. So there are active people are there. This is called Vikshan. V means Vishesha. Vishesha means special. Special type of looking at you is called Vikshan. So when Sri Ramakrishna looks at me, he doesn't look at me like Swami Vimukshananda. He goes much deeper. He knows inside my heart and finds out who I am, how I am. If he looks at me like that, then the moha, the delusion goes away.
And Maharaj, is there any similarity between Viksha and Diksha?
Yes, the Dikshas can be given in different formats. And one of the format is Vikshan format. By looking at, one can give Diksha. So one lady and her husband, they used to go to Kakurgachi. I'm just reminiscing about Swami Gahananandaji Maharaj, whom I considered as my Upaguru. So Gahananji was called Naresh Maharaj. He was a great Swami. And this Swami Gahanananji, once we were walking in Yogodhyan Mutt. In the evening, he comes for walking, so I also went, and then we were walking. And then after that, a few devotees were standing there. So when he went to his room for rest, I came out. So one of the devotees came and said, Maharaj, you are walking with Maharaj. What did he speak to you? What did he say to you? So I was narrating what Gahananji Maharaj was talking. You know, he always goes into reminiscent mood of Brahmananji and others. So he was telling that, I was telling. Then I asked, have you taken Diksha from him? He said, yes, Maharaj. I am working as a regional director of All India Radio. I will tell you my incident. Then he narrated to me. I was stunned when I heard it. He was not a believer at all in God. And his wife was a great believer in Ramakrishna. So he used to take her by his scooter every day and drop her at Mutt, at the ashram. He would go away somewhere. And he will come back after 1 hour and pick her up to house. That is, you won't even enter the ashram. One day, he said to his wife, I said, you are talking always about your guru. I want to see your guru. She was very happy. Oh, my husband is now want to see my guru. Wonderful. Let us go. So she took him in with great enthusiasm. And then he also sat along with her, along the other devotees. And then he came back. He's telling his wife, today, I don't know what happened. When Swamiji looked at me, Vikshan, mind you, Vikshan, this is Vishesha Ikshan, special kind of looking at. That is what he did. When Swamiji looked at me and fixed his gaze upon me, I don't know what happened. There was a current in my body. I could feel there was a current in me, as if I have touched a live wire. Anyway, this happened a few days gone. And then slowly, he told his wife, I want to take Diksha. Can you take me to your guru? So she very happily, she took him and told Maharaj, my husband has come. You know, he did not believe in these things earlier, but today he is telling he wants to have Diksha. Can you please give him Diksha? Then he said, Maharaj told her, why? On that day itself, I have given him. Oh, he wants to have a formal Diksha. Okay. Ask him to come next Monday. He said, this is the incident that man told me. I was stunned, you know. So, right man I have taken as my Upaguru, you know. Vikshade moha jai. All his moha of disbelief in God, etc., by just that Swami Ghananandji's Vikshan has removed him. So great man, just look at you and you are renewed with your others. Anyone else? Yes.
Swamiji, I found the translation of this Chit Ganakai.
Yes, what is written?
It says, O embodiment of pure consciousness.
Okay. That's also good word. Embodiment or solidifying is correct.
Yeah. What happened, Swamiji? You know, before what I was reading was a translation by Swami Prabhavananda and Christopher Isherwood. So that was not a literal translation. Then on Google, I found a literal translation. So there are true translation probably.
Yes, a word by word translation is something. Because Prabhavananda translated, he wanted American audience to see. So for them, what the words that can be pleasant to them, that he has used it. But he has not mistranslated anything. So he might have made it here. You know, there's the meanings are there, you know. You go by word meaning. That is one kind of understanding a verse. Another is the meaning itself comes as a general meaning, as it is called. That also you can use it. Initially, you have to go with the general meaning and then go into deeper. That's why this class was started. Okay, then, thank you. So let us close today.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Shanti. Hari Om.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Durga to everyone.
Thank you.
Durga Maharaj.
ছবি বলছি
না কেমন আছো তুমি
ভালো আছি
বাহ very good
Sobidi, nice to see you.
Yes, nice to see you. Yes, same thing. I am seeing Surendra also. Raja Sahib is there.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Maharaj, it's his birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday, Shubha Janmudin.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, thank
Very
you.
nice day to have that of yours.
Okay, then Durga.
Durga.
Shubhratri, Maharaj.
ঝুমা তুমি কি ওখানে আছো ঝুমা ঝুমা